The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is a tragic story of a woman named Lo-Letha Hall who was shot and killed while making an Uber pickup. Her killer, an 81-year-old man. Why did he do it? Here's the story.
81-year-old Bill Brock thought he was trapped in a nightmare when threatening scam calls came to his South Charleston, Ohio home. Someone claiming to be a court official told him a relative was jailed and demanded money, threatening to harm if he didn't pay. Unknown to Brock, that same scammer or an accomplice used the Uber app to send a 61-year-old driver named Lo-Letha Hall to his house to pick up a package. Hall, who had no connection to the scam, unwittingly became the face-to-face link in a dangerous deception. When she arrived, authorities say Brock pulled a gun, took her phone, and blocked her exit. Hall tried to leave and during the encounter was shot 3 times. She later died at a hospital. Brock called 911 after the shooting. Prosecutors have indicted him on murder, kidnapping, and felonious assault charges. He has pleaded not guilty and faces the possibility of life in prison.
This should not have happened. It should not have happened, but it did. And now we've got a murder trial that is brewing here. There's a lot of moving parts to this story. Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Let's start with obviously the most important part, the most tragic part, which is the shooting of Lo-Letha Hall. What's the story now behind the shooting?
Well, Vinny, just another one of those stories where someone's getting scammed out of money, but unfortunately, this one turned fatal. So let's start with the man that this whole case is centered around, William Brock. 81 years old at the time of the shooting in March of 2024. Now, he told police once they arrived that he was on the phone all morning. Now, the shooting happened around 11:18 that morning in March of 2024. He was on the phone with them all morning that day with the scammers. They were trying to get money out of him, and he said they started threatening him as well. Now, let's move on to the woman who was killed here, Lo-Letha Hall, 61 years old. Now, according to the state, Hall knew nothing about this scam whatsoever in any capacity, but she was sent through Uber by these scammers to pick up a package in which she had no idea what was inside, according to the state. Now we move on to the altercation once she arrived. Now we see there on the screen there, we see pictures of her. These are still images of the confrontation. And eventually we see there William Brock holding a gun to Lo-Letha Hall. So Vinny, let's take a listen or take a look at this confrontation played out. We want to give our viewers a warning that it is graphic. Take a look.
Stop. Or I'll call 911. Stop. No, you're not leaving. Right. No, you're not. You're not leaving in one hole. Stop. Give me that phone. Stop. Give me it. Stop. Give me it. Help! 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 Give me that phone. Help! I'll shoot the other way. Help! Help! Come on, get out! Help! Sir! Yeah. I'm here to pick up a package. Yes, I know what you're after. You're after the... Help! 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 I'll shoot you in the head. Don't do that, please. Don't, sir. Please don't. Over. He's right up there. You can see it. You can see it. You can look, sir. Please. Just look. Oh, hold properly. Right here.
So, Vinnie, for our viewers, I want to point out two things there in that video. One, of course, we could obviously see that Lo-Letha Hall was unarmed. But two, Vinnie, just in case our viewers didn't pick up on it, we hear William Brock say, quote, "I'll shoot you in the head next time," after he'd already shot her once, where someone could argue that was maybe intent to kill or intent to murder there. But let's take a listen to him explaining the scam to police once they arrive. Take a listen.
I'm sure glad to see you guys out here because I've been on this phone for a couple hours with this guy trying to save me. I had a nephew in jail and had a wreck in Charleston and just kept hanging on and needing bond money, and this woman was supposed to
scan him.
Yeah, figured it.
All right,
I kept getting different names and different stories out of him.
So, Vinnie, we have two people who don't know each other, scammed by the same people, unbeknownst to the two people that are involved here, scammed by the same people and ending in a death. Just a terrible story all around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The tragedy involved here. And these are, one is 61, one's 81. They've lived these long lives, and it ends this way for Lo-Letha. It's just not right. That brings us to the first question in our investigation tonight. Who is a victim, right? Because everyone's got their story. And as Cody described to us, these two people didn't know each other. They were brought together by some third party. Let's bring in our guest who's going to help us through this. Two attorneys joining me. Ohio family law and trial attorney Scott Friedman and longtime Massachusetts attorney Rick Rundy is with us. Great to see you both. Scott, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts here? Who's a victim here?
Vinnie, thank you first for having me. First of all, I think they're both victims in one way or the other. He's a victim of a scam, clearly it sounds like, and I've heard of this and had personal experience with it in my own family. She's, of course, a victim of something far worse, which is being killed. And so both are victims. I would argue that she is the much greater victim under this scenario, which is obviously devastating and should not, as you said earlier, have ever happened. But they're both victims. But, at the end of the day, he's the one on trial for murder and all the other charges that have been brought. And he's got to try to prove either self-defense or competency or a combination of both.
Yeah. Rick, I look at this and I always think about, we're going to bring in 12 jurors who are going to sit in that box and they're going to hear the story. And inevitably, inside of a courtroom, I think the defense will be leaning into the alleged victimhood of the defendant. Obviously, Lo-Letha, it's really obvious. How do you think a jury reacts to this scenario where both parties are seemingly victims of this third unknown party who has placed them together?
So I think if you take it out of the generic sequence of events where the 81-year-old man clearly was a victim of an attempted crime, and what we see on that video really is going to make it difficult for them to sway that emotion in his direction, I believe. And you're really looking to put out a self-defense or maybe a diminished capacity defense and hope that the jury will rule on their emotions. But they're going to hear probably a instruction before as well as after as to what those things are, diminished capacity, self-defense. And here you have a woman, we watch her walk in front of the car. She clearly is not threatening physically. She's having difficult moving. Looks like she has a hip issue or something. He's got the gun drawn and cocked. He's chasing her around. He's looking for that phone. In other words, I want to try and solve this mystery. I want to get this guy on the phone and do some harm to him, possibly. He shoots her. He then, as Cody just points out, threatens her with murder, shoots her again, and apparently there's a third shot. So I think when you get into 2 and 3 shots and you're looking at self-defense or diminished capacity, tough road to hoe.
Right, and the video takes away, I think you're right there, it takes away the sympathy factor that you might have if someone told you the story about the scam. Obviously, you're going to feel bad for the 81-year-old, but then you watch the video. Scott, I want you to take a listen here to the defendant's attorney speaking about their perspective of this whole scenario.
When you have someone break into your house
and claim they're there to get the money. I don't see what time passes. It happened almost immediately after his house was broken into. Now, she may have been an Uber driver. She may have not. We're not sure yet. But she broke into his house. She entered his residence without permission, allegedly to get this package of money. She didn't knock on the door and said, "I'm from Uber. Can you please give me whatever the order is?" She entered his house without permission, without knocking. And when she entered his house, he thought that this was the time when he was either going to die or he had to turn over the money.
So, Scott, I want to return to that victim question here. If, and this is a big if, obviously, we wouldn't be talking about this case, but if he hadn't pulled a gun, hadn't shot her, and she just came, picked up that envelope and left, the whole investigation would have focused on her.
That's correct. Yeah. And it sounds like from the evidence that we've seen, she was not involved in this. She was an innocent person involved in this. But going back to what the attorney, John Ryan, said, we don't know from that video whether she broke into the house. Those are the words he used, broke into the house. I don't know that. There's no video of it that I've seen. And if it's Mr. Brock's word versus the victim who's no longer alive, then we don't really know what happened. It seemed from the Uber dash cam, very innocent. She fled, she left, she wanted to get out of there. And, in Ohio, for self-defense, we have several different standards that need to be looked at, including the stand your ground defense. You're protecting your home. You're not at fault. And is this, is the punishment fit the crime? And as I'm watching that video, I'm thinking, why did he have to shoot her? He could have shot her tires out if he didn't want her to flee and get caught if she was, committing a crime or something like that. Now, again, it goes back to capacity and diminished capacity and those things. But it's just, looking at that video and then looking at what John Ryan, the attorney, said, I don't have evidence to show that all those things are met by the self-defense that he's claiming.
Yeah, there's not video of that, and we'll see how far he takes that. What I find interesting also, Rick, is the way he's treated afterwards, right? James Brock, when police show up. It's not the normal scenario where the guy with the gun, usually they're cuffed, read their rights, thrown in the back. That's not exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, no, not at all. It appears they're very sympathetic towards him. It may be because of his age, and they obviously are trying to unravel this ball of yarn and figure out exactly what is going on. And the kinder you are to a person, the more likely you're going to provide information to you. A couple of things with respect to what the attorney said. I don't believe it, but if you are able to present that evidence, you still have a mountain of trouble, I think, again, that's going to take away the sympathy factor, because that self-defense, even if that person went into the house and he's got his house wide open, even though he's afraid of these people and been dealing with it for hours, the threat has diminished when she leaves and he's firing again and again. And then going back again to the point where he tells us in that video why he's shooting her. And it's not to protect himself, it's to get her phone. And I think the logical conclusion from that is he's still focused on following up on this scam and getting a pound of flesh for it.
All right, Scott and Rick are going to stick around. Coming up next, how widespread are these types of scams?
He said it was a scam. Somebody called and told him that his nephew was in jail and he needed to bring $12,000 downtown. And next thing you know, he tells them that he's got $12,000. She shows up here and tries to take $12,000, so he should bring.
The Court TV podcast will return.
I need the sheriff and an ambulance real quick out here. There's been a shooting. Well, I shot her in the leg the first time, and I shot her in the shoulder. Guy on the phone has been trying to get money out of me. And he was telling me he was going to kill me and the family and everybody else around.
That's William Brock on the phone with 911. And in that first call, yeah, there was a shooting. I shot her twice. And, oh, yeah, they've been trying to get money from me all day. So what was going on all day? Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, let's get into some of the details of this scam so we have a better context for the shooting. What exactly was happening here?
Well, Vinny, according to Brock, someone or a collection of people called him that day trying to get $12,000 out of him under the fake story of his nephew being in jail and needing some bail money to get out. So the local outlet, the Springfield News-Sun, reported on this story, and they referenced all the documents filed so far in court. They say Brock spoke to someone claiming to be a lawyer, someone claiming to be a judge, a person claiming to be a bail bondsman, and a, quote, gangster. The call started as a believable narrative when someone claiming to be the grandson of a family friend hysterically said he had been in a crash involving a pregnant woman, and he was with his attorney, who tried to convince Brock that he needed to provide funds to bail him out of jail. A man pretending to be a judge then allegedly confirmed what the family friend and attorney said, and Brock believed the situation. Brock was given a description of Hall, Lo-Letha Hall, with scammers saying she would wait for him at a specific location downtown in a black Acura, according to court records. After Brock told them he did not have time for that, the scammers planned for Hall to retrieve the cash from his home. Scammers allegedly told Brock they had been watching him for weeks and he needed to put the money in a manila envelope and set it outside of his house. They then allegedly described in detail how they would rape and torture anyone associated with Bill if he did not comply with the request. So some pretty aggressive actions here, according to William Brock, Vinny. So here's Brock in his own words talking about the scam in the hospital following the shooting. Take a listen.
I was supposed to put the money to the courthouse. They would be waiting there for it. Okay. And they had time, got real nasty with threats and stuff. Yeah. For long enough for her to drive out. And I said, well, where's she at? He said, well, she's at your house now to get the money. And if you don't get the money, she's going to kill you.
So, Vinny, again, some pretty aggressive efforts here to extort someone of $12,000. I mean, sending an Uber pickup and talking about we're going to torture your family. We have drones watching you. Just this is different from the ones we've seen before.
Yeah, and all the different people that he, I guess, spoke to or believed he was speaking to, 4 different actors involved with this, plus Uber. We heard from our guest in the first segment talking about how his family member was victim of an alleged scam like this. That brings us to the next question in our investigation. How widespread are these types of scams? Joining me, 2 longtime investigators, retired FBI Special Agent and Professor Kenneth Gray, and Black Ops Private Investigator Manuel Gomez. Thank you both for being here. Manuel, from your perspective, how common are these types of scams? I mean, this aggressive, it seems like you got a bunch of people involved here and a certain level of sophistication.
Well, this scam right now, unfortunately, is so common throughout the United States that even on the FBI, they have a statistical chart showing that the seniors are losing between $89 and $100 million a year that they're being scammed out of. And Vinny, I got to tell you, this here is something that needs to be regulated. I hope at the end of this case that we make some type of Brock legislation which will regulate the social engineering scams that are occurring throughout the United States, which cause these senior people to give Zelle payments, wire transfers, cash transfers. This is something happening every single day, and we have no regulation. And this is why, in this case, Vinny, they have not been able to catch a scammer, because due to this AI technology of social engineering scams, they generate phone numbers. And in this case, Vinny, this number shows that it was in Canada. Let me say that again, in Canada. But we all know that the guy was in Ohio. And this is why the police have not been able to find this. The only technology out there that can conquer this type of AI app is unfortunately used by the CIA and by the U.S. Army, which I'm very familiar with, being a retired counterintelligence officer. But we need to have legislation to correct this and regulate this.
Kenneth Gray, Manuel brings up a great point in this one, right? The money's not being wired anywhere. This was like a cash pickup.
Hi, Vinny. Glad to be with you. Yeah, but we don't know what Lo-Letha's instructions were to do with the money. She very well could be taking it to a cutout, who in turn may have been given directions about how to get the money to the scammer wherever the scammer was. This scammer could have been international. It could have been in Canada, or in actuality could have been over in the Philippines for that matter. This is a very common scam. It's called a grandparent scam. The dollar amount loss that I found in research was much higher. It's over $3 billion a year, not just for grandparent scams, but for elderly scams in general. But the AARP puts that number at 10 times that amount. So this is a huge threat. It's a growing threat. And the use of the internet allows the scammers to do research on their targets, come up with names of family members. So if they go to places like Facebook, and be able to successfully target people, and then use these ploys to try to get them to provide the money.
Yeah, and I guess the key here, Manuel, is if we have parents, grandparents, whoever's a little bit older, to have conversations about this and have that ongoing conversation about anyone calling out of the blue.
That's true, Vinny, and that's why I said to my clients and victims that I've worked with, unfortunately, I always tell them, give your family members a passcode. Come up with some type of identifier word so they'll know that this person is legitimate. Because, Vinny, again, these programs are enabling voice changing. Okay, they change their voices. They are able to generate numbers all over. And this is happening in homicides and scams throughout the United States. Why isn't the government, Vinny, my question is, doing something? As my colleague said, this is within over $1 billion of money being lost out there. Something needs to be done. And I hope at the end of the day, this case, something does happen.
Yeah, I think you made a great point, too, about the AI aspect of it and voice changing. I could see, with the technology, you could get the voice of the grandson. You could get the voice of the daughter, and you're not going to know if you're speaking to the actual person or not. And it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse unless we do something to get a little bit ahead of it. All right, Manuel Gomez, great to see you. Kenneth Gray is going to stick around. When we come back, still to come, why didn't police have a better plan to catch the scammers?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the tragic shooting of Lo-Letha Hall, who literally begged for her life before 81-year-old James Brock shot her. Why he did it is what his trial will be all about. Here's the story. On March 25th, 2024, a routine Uber pickup became a fatal collision of fear and misinformation in South Charleston, Ohio. Investigators say Bill Brock, 81 years old, had received threatening scam calls earlier that morning. Someone posing as a court official demanding money and claiming danger if the demands were not met. That same scammer, or an accomplice, allegedly dispatched Lo-Letha Hall, a 61-year-old Uber driver, to Brock's home to collect what she thought was a harmless delivery. Hall had no knowledge of the scam and no involvement in threatening Brock. When she arrived, deputies say Brock armed himself, confronted her, and seized her phone. As Hall attempted to get away, Brock shot her multiple times. She was taken to a hospital where she later died. A Clark County grand jury has indicted Brock on murder, kidnapping, and felonious assault charges. He pleaded not guilty, was released on bail with a potential life sentence awaiting if he's convicted. So there's a couple things at play here, right? This is not a simple, okay, someone shows up and you shoot him. There's the backstory, and the backstory will be a big part of the trial. So he shoots Lo-Letha Hall, and then he calls 911, and police respond. But at this point, the scammers have no idea what is going on, what has transpired at Brock's home. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. The scammers then call the home while police were there. What did the police do?
Yeah, Vinny, how much more coincidental can it get? I mean, police are there. They're processing this crime scene after this shooting. At this point, they're inside the house. And then, lo and behold, the scammers call Brock's phone. Let's take a listen to that phone call now.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm on.
Do we want to know? Hello?
Yes, hello?
Hello?
Yes, who is this?
May I ask who I'm talking to?
Yes, this is the officer speaking.
Okay, what officer?
Yes.
No, I need to know what officer, sir.
You're going to be in trouble.
Okay. Let me ask you this. The female you sent over here, you know who she is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, she's been in an accident. And this is actually an officer. It's Detective Cruz with the Clark County Sheriff's Office. I need you to dial a number, get this number so I can explain more to you. Hello? Hello?
If you'd like to make a call.
All right, Vinny, so that call drops, but again, the scammers call back. Let's take a listen to that.
How you doing on speakerphone? This one?
I'll give it to her.
See how you put it on speaker?
That speaker thing right there?
Right here?
Yep. Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry, we got disconnected there.
Okay.
What were you saying?
She was in an accident. This is Detective Cruz with the Clark County Sheriff's Office. She was taken to the hospital. I need you to call so we can get more information on her.
Okay, what type of accident?
It was a serious accident. We'll just say that.
A serious accident?
Yes.
Is she okay?
No, she's not doing well.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
She just say she was taken to the hospital.
What hospital is she
I'm
at?
not going to tell you that until you meet me so I can make sure you're family or something like that.
Okay, I'm going to be there, give me 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Where is the gentleman that was there?
Huh?
The gentleman that was there.
Okay.
Where is he?
He's talking to us, so I need you to come.
Okay, thank you. I'll be there.
20 minutes, get ready. Let's see if he shows up. Do we think he's coming here? He said he's coming here.
20 minutes.
No one showed up. No one showed up at all, Vinny. 20 minutes, 20 days, 20 hours, no one showed up, and now we have this man here who's on trial or going to go to trial for murder, and Lo-Letha Hall is dead while these scammers are still out there.
Yeah. The way that all went down, why would they show up, right? All right, Cody, thanks so much. That brings us to the next question in our investigation about what we just saw there. Why didn't police have a better plan to catch the scammers when they called and then called back? Still with me, retired FBI Special Agent Kenneth Gray, and joining me, retired DEA Supervisory Special Agent Michael T. Wilhite Sr. All right, Michael, I'll begin with you. There was no way the scammers were going to show up under what they just learned. The police are there, she's not there, and they're talking to the guy who's being scammed all day. Why didn't they have a better plan to try to catch the scammers here?
Vinny, you better check your studio because the police officer's probably still waiting for them to come to show up at the studio there, okay? All right? They dropped the ball big time. I mean, like a red hot poker. That right there reflects the reason why police departments, large and small, the importance of training. They need training, especially during this time where seniors are being taken advantage of like that, okay? That just shows lack of experience. When we first saw this, I'm sitting here, when I spoke to you before, I appeared on your show before, I'm sitting there and said, oh, this is, I'm in the narcotics office. This is a controlled delivery. I mean, you could do this in your sleep, So if Ms. Hall wouldn't have passed away, she'd probably been willing to cooperate in this, take the money, find out she gets the money, find it under the control of law enforcement. Obviously not this detective, but take the money to find out where they want to meet up at, take the money there, have the money wired up,
with a package beacon. All right, whoever shows up, boom, they get snagged. Find out, interview them, interrogate them, and further enhance the and go up the link of the chain and further enhance the investigation of who these people are. Okay, it's just lack of training. It's lack of training, and that's what it is. You look at this picture, this movie, the scenario, and it's like it reminds you of soldiers getting captured back in, say, the colonial war days, where they think they're being smart, and what they're actually doing, answering the questions, and what they're actually doing is telling the plan. She told the plan to them. Why are you even asking them, telling them what's going on with the lady? Okay, or they could have just put, and the mere fact that they don't know what the police is there at the house, don't know what's going on, that shows you that they're not surveilling the house. They don't have eyes on the house. They have no clue. So Lo-Letha could have showed up. Anybody could have showed up with the money to see who shows up to come and receive the money. Yeah. The bad guy, It's pitiful.
Yeah, Kenneth, and there were actually two opportunities because they called back because the call dropped. So there was an opportunity almost to all right, let's gather ourselves here. What are we going to do? And when it came to the question of, well, where's the guy? It's like, well, we're talking to him. Well, if they know the guy being scammed is talking to police, it's game over.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is probably the first time they've ever dealt with this particular situation. But even if the department had had contacts like this before and had dealt with a parent scammer like this, a grandparent scammer like this, nonetheless, that does not mean that detective had ever dealt with this particular situation. Exactly. So I agree that this was pitiful. But again, lack of experience in this particular type of case or any type of dealing with a person that has scammed somebody, set them up like this. They could have been much better off if they had put someone else other than an officer or a detective on that phone line, because no one else would have done as bad as this detective did in this particular case.
Yeah, and we talk about this person as a scammer, but under these facts and scenarios, Michael, they're a murderer. This is felony murder.
Exactly. Vinny, I also want to say, I want to add to what I said before, that there was a good chance that the bad guy, the caller, he showed unusual interest in what happened to the older guy, to Mr. Brock. So I wouldn't be surprised if the investigators, I would think the investigators would want to go talk to the nephew. The nephew could be involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, follow up, see if you can figure it out, because whoever set this whole thing up put these two people who didn't know each other into this situation. One is dead, the other one may die behind bars. Big thanks for your help tonight, Michael Will Height Sr. Great to see you. Great to see you, Kenneth Gray. Appreciate your insight. Incredible experience they have. Coming up next, if Lo-Letha Hall was part of the conspiracy, not saying she was, but if she was this self-defense?
They called her and said, your grandson's in jail. You need $12,000. So he calls and tells whoever that, hey, I got 12 grand. They show up.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Where's the envelope, Sheila? You know what I mean? Let's just see, like, come up here. I got my body cam on. So they called him.
Oh, okay. You ain't gonna say no more. I understand. Tell him that his son's in. Yep.
And then she showed up. We'll probably need to take his phone.
So it's interesting, right? As investigators are walking through the scene, the crime scene is outside, but the scene inside is just as important to the case because this is where William Brock was and was getting all those phone calls. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. All right, so there's going to be a trial. What exactly is William Brock's defense?
Well, Vinnie, his defense is self-defense. The intent to present a self-defense case was filed by his defense team in late 2025. Let's take a listen to his attorney breaking down how they plan to present that case.
It's clear from the filings that we did last week that this will be a self-defense case. This is a case that, without dispute, involves the threat to kill an 81-year-old farmer. He reacted to that threat because he believed it to be true. And in his mind, there's no question that he either had to give the money to the con men and the assailants or be killed. Those were his two options. If an individual has a good faith belief that they are in imminent harm of death or serious physical harm, that they are permitted to use whatever force is necessary to repel that aggression, whether or not it's true or not, as long as it's in good faith that they have that belief. I don't think that he is the one that's to blame. I think that the very violent threats that were made against him, whoever made those violent threats, that's the person to blame. That's the person that set up this robbery. That's the person who created, assuming this woman's an innocent woman, who brought her into this situation. He's the one that's to blame. And I think the focus should be there.
Have, to your knowledge, investigators from Clark County made any progress on trying to find the person who was making those phone threats?
I think that investigation's ongoing.
So, Vinnie, that's his defense. We hear his attorney saying there that as long as there was good faith behind his actions, he had a right to defend himself. So we'll have to see how that plays out once this actually makes it in front of a jury.
Absolutely, and it's coming up soon. Thanks so much, Cody Thomas. Great reporting all night. So a couple things here, right? The defense attorney in that same interview talked about Lo-Letha Hall and her role in it, and he said, well, you know, he said they're presumed she's not involved, and all indications are that she's not, but he said, I don't know for sure. Could a juror be in the same mindset, not knowing whether or not Lo-Letha Hall was involved? And again, there's no evidence that she was, but things happen at trial, and we don't know exactly what the defense will present or argue on that issue. So final question is a hypothetical. Let's take a look. If Lo-Letha Hall was part of the conspiracy, was this self-defense? We know the defense is self-defense. Does it hinge on whether or not Lo-Letha Hall is part of the conspiracy? Does it make a difference? Let's bring back in our attorneys. Joining me, family law and trial attorney Scott Friedman and longtime Massachusetts attorney Rick Grundy. All right, Rick, again, no evidence that she was, but a juror could think it. The defense may argue it. I don't know. Does it matter for self-defense if Lo-Letha is part of the conspiracy or is a victim of the same scammers that Brock was?
So again, you know, your best defense here is you're looking for some jury nullification by having the sympathy shift a little more to your client. And I think that needle definitely could move back towards the shooter if they could show that she was in fact a part of this. Again, still a very difficult road to hoe based on, you know, there you go, that picture there with his 1845.
But looking at that picture, and she is attempting to scam him, and let's presume she's part of the scam in this picture. She isn't, but if a jury believes it, or if she does it make a legal difference here?
It does, in my opinion, does not make a legal difference, because what she's doing is she's fleeing. The exigency that gives this individual a right for self-defense is moving away, is leaving, is trying to get in the car to end it. The threat is not immediate. He clearly is in the situation of control there. And, you know, one of the first things I'm going to present as the prosecutor is you told us that this was going on for hours. It's approximately 11:30 now, that you've been dealing with for hours. When's the first time you called the police? Did you call the police at all before you chased down this woman with your six-shooter? Answer, no.
Let me ask you, Scott, If, in fact, a juror believes it or it's true, which no indication that it is. Again, this is a hypothetical I'm talking about. It's almost like a law school exam here. If she was part of the scammers, and the scammers are making threats to him, like violent physical threats all morning long, does it change the equation at all for self-defense?
As Rick said, I think it can create a sympathetic juror's mind. But being from Ohio and in Ohio, we have factors that relate to self-defense. One is that the defendant wasn't at fault. Second was that there was a genuine and reasonable fear. And then third, that they used proportional force in the instance. And I don't see, maybe there was genuine and reasonable fear of Mr. Brock thinking someone's going to show up and harm him if he didn't give this money. That could be very well true in his own mind. There was no weapon shown that I saw in the video. There was no threat of any killing by this Miss Hall. And so when you look at those factors, I just don't see how they get it to a positive self-defense. I mean, we have a number of cases in Ohio, unfortunately, over the last several years, where police officers, trained police officers, have shot at potential criminals who pull out something in the dark at 3 a.m, and they shoot them thinking they're going to shoot back at them, the policeman, and they've had trouble proving self-defense in those kind of cases. And there's a multitude of them, and these are trained officers. So I just think it's a very, very tough standard for the defense to prove. I think they probably would be better off focusing more on some sort of diminished capacity argument. But back to your question, with Lo-Letha, and if she's involved, I don't see that being a huge factor in terms of the self-defense situation.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see where the defense takes that issue, whether they raise it as, hey, maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. We shall see. Big trial coming up. Big thanks, Scott Freeman. Great to have you on. Rick Grundy, great to see you as well. Happy New Year to everyone here. All right. This trial will be difficult for everyone involved, obviously, especially because the person or people most responsible for what happened have not been caught. The scammers are clearly liable. To me, it's a simple felony murder case, which would actually be much easier to prove than to prove the case against James Brock, which is winnable for prosecutors, but a tough one for the jury when they're going to see this 81-year-old man come in and perhaps tell his story of being scammed. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for the answers as the investigation continues.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.